Hey guys, it's JP Fluellen with Khek and another episode of Getting Real in the Field, where we teach you guys how to do things that you suck at, which is follow up, staying in your database, and lead generation. And so it is another great day. It's the day before, well, not really the day before. It's a couple days before Thanksgiving 2021. We're super excited about just jumping into some nitty-gritty actionable items, which, if you're listening to your everyday podcast, there may not be actionable items, but we really pride ourselves in having some actionable items in this podcast. And so what's up, Khek?
JP, what is up? Turkey is up, ham is up, and
Yes.
potatoes.
In your silky smooth voice, because you've got some nice new equipment over there.
Oh, yes, yes. Just to let you guys know, I follow JP's footsteps and I've invested into a new microphone, the Shure SM7B.
Nice. It's a beautiful thing.
Now I'm going to sing. No, you do not want me to sing.
You could sing, your voice would probably sound just fine, with some auto
Yeah.
tune and some filters. I'm just playing.
Tune and filters. Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
confidence
You're
in me.
welcome. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So it is Thanksgiving Eve of Eve. We're gonna talk. What are we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about follow-ups tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about follow-up, man. We're gonna go old school follow-up because
Old school.
old
Okay, what is
school
old school follow-up to you?
old school follow-up is like, you have a really tight schedule. You get up at 8, you're in front of your computer at 8:30 every morning. You do your hour of power or your 3 hours of power, and you just hammer through your leads like a machine. And you're calling on your leads, you're making notes, send out cards, or your whatever you call them, the handwritten notes. You're doing everything old school, because nobody texts in the old school world. you know there's no video texting. It's all
You're
phone
really
call.
going old school.
Old school, like we're straight up like Buffini style old school,
Okay.
like,
Okay.
you know
Fair
and,
enough.
and, and it works. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it works. I mean, you've got, if you got nothing but time, old school works.
Sure.
Because, I mean, really, let's face it, like, what was it? I just saw the latest statistic. It's like the average agent does like 8 deals a year, which is just insane. I mean,
Yeah.
but it depends on what your market is. You could do 8 deals and live a comfortable life. Like, I was talking to a guy. I just got back from Vegas a couple weeks ago. And there's a guy. He's like, dude, I do 8 deals a year. Our average price point's 500 grand. So
Oh
whatever.
yeah. You got some
Like,
markets,
yeah,
like if you're in like California, like San Francisco, average deal size, I'm sure it's close to $1 million at
yeah.
least.
And if you're doing $1 million, 8 million a year, and you only got to do 8 deals, like,
That's that's not
that's
bad.
pretty good living. Not a bad deal.
Yeah. Yep.
However, I couldn't settle for mediocrity, because I mean, I'm my average, I do between 30 and 40 deals a year on average by
Wow.
myself.
Okay. So teach us the tricks then, oh wise one. Old school follow-ups. Folks, you
So
heard it here, old school. We're gonna talk about that tonight.
yeah, so the way that I look at it is like this. So when you're disciplined, you've got a good time block schedule. You're regimented with your business as well as in life. So if you have kind of a business mindset with an employee mindset, so if you go to work for yourself 8 hours a day and you put in all the work, you're going to get the desired result. And so when I'm thinking about follow up, specifically, it's you've got your list, your hot list, and even
Yep.
old school style, you're going to have your Excel spreadsheet because that's just what people do old school. Because that's how I started. I had an Excel spreadsheet, dude.
I'm impressed. At least it's one step ahead than the notepad here, right?
Right, dude. I couldn't do notepads. I just because I could never find the notepad that I wrote the notes on. So I'm finding another piece of paper, you know. And so I was really bad at that. Or I would do the whiteboard. And I know a lot of agents are still doing whiteboard as like their primary way to follow up with their leads. And I think that that's just not good because you're only going to stay on top of your top 10, maybe your top 15, and then the rest of your leads get lost in the shuffle because you're constantly only focusing on the ones you've written down,
Right.
that are in
Yep.
front of you,
Yep.
not the ones that are, getting lost. And so, you're making your phone calls, you're making good notes, you're following up that way. And then a lot of times, like, you hear a lot of like, oh, I was driving around in the neighborhood and I thought of you. You shoot them a little quick text message, and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the old school methodology, as well as, if some of your old school contacts are past clients, you send them a manual business card in the mail
Sure.
with a, hey, thinking of you, or, happy house anniversary, or, Merry Christmas, and that's it. That's the extent of it because you don't have anything on automation. There's nothing there other than your brain, your paper, and your memory,
Yeah.
and so as that could be effective, and you probably are doing your tips group, or, your Bible study, or whatever you're going to every single week. And, that's kind of your way of staying engaged with, clients and getting new clients. So that's kind of old school for me. Or, it might be, you have a like saved emails, for instance, and you've created like a blind copy list or a group, and you're sending out a manual email every so often, but you forget because you didn't put it in your calendar. And so you're doing it just sporadically, and there's no like regimented system behind it. And so that's, to me, is super old school too, because you're just kind of like, it's just, you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're just kind of like, you know, and that's just
Okay.
kind of, but it, and then when you do a deal, you shut everything down because all of your energy goes into doing that deal, that one or two deals. You see that deal close, and then you're like, oh crap, I gotta start lead genning again, or I gotta
Yep.
start getting
Yep.
back a hold of clients because I just closed that deal and I gotta start all over again. So I mean, theoretically, if that's the way you run your business, you're only gonna do maybe 6 to 12 deals a year, right? Because it
Yep.
takes 30 days to close, 30 to 45 days. I was actually talking into an agent, I believe they're out of California, and they're every closing 60 days. It's a 60-day close no matter
Oh
what.
yeah. All the paperwork and stuff like that
Yeah, so
takes
it's a
that long
60-day
over there.
close. So if you're only closing a deal every 60 days, you're only going to do 12 deals on a good year. If that's your method, if your method is once I'm on, I'm on, once I'm off, I'm back to lead gen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, so a couple of things that I'm picking up from it, right? Like, the old-fashioned way. It could work. It's and I read you loud and clear. It's like it's not super efficient, but it definitely does work. If you are happy with where you're at and you want to stay where you're at, and kind of like going through the motion, and you do 8 to 12 deals, not bad, right? And that works for you. And it works for a lot of folks like that. But if you want to grow your business, then you gotta kind of we'll save it for the next episode, but talk about technology and like I'm like, shaking in my boots when I hear you talk about like the list and taking down the notes and you're writing on a piece of paper. That's when CRM comes in, right? It's like the technology, you have to use it or else you're going to be falling way behind, right? But there's a couple of good takeaways though that I've heard you talk about as well too. It's dedicating, or building a discipline and dedicating the time to call on people, reach out to your spheres, reach out to your list of cold calling even, right? The drive-bys, you know. So as far as like doing the calling, I agree that, you know, you need to be disciplined enough that each day you're going to call, you know, 10 people or 20 people. You know, there's some coaching groups that I know of that say you're going to call 50 per week. So that's 10 per day. You know, and it's harder than it seems. 50 doesn't seem like a lot, but you're going to have 50 conversations. And that's how you're going to drive business. And for some people, that works super well. I know a whole bunch of agents that do that, right? I'm thinking drive-bys this time of the year, perfect. I know lots of agents are driving around town right now and, you know, handing postcards or giving pie giveaways as well to build the relationship, right? I mean, you've done that. Your pie, I know you did your pie
No,
giveaway.
I have not done the pies, but
Oh,
I've seen agents in my old office do the pie thing. And she actually stopped doing the delivering the pies, and she has just had the pies available, and then she send out cards to her
ah,
clients and had them
yeah,
come to her
it's a
to
little
get the
bit more
pies.
efficient. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because a lot of times what ends up happening is you're driving around, they're like, oh yeah, I'll be there, I'll be home at 5, and you go at 5 and they're not home because something came up, you know, and so then it's just easier to be like, if you want your pie, yo,
come on
come
over.
see me and then we'll get you a pie, you know, and it's pumpkin spice, you know, like, you know, or whatever, you know, it's apple. I mean, it depends on the type of pie. I mean, shoot, I'd stop and get the, you know, caramel apple pie because it's the
You
bomb.
know, I know this is like actually the Costco pumpkin pie is pretty damn good too.
Dude, we don't have Costco here.
What?
I know, dude. We have Sam's Club because we're in the ghetto up here when it comes
Oh,
to
come on. You are gonna be in so much
I
trouble.
know, dude. Like Sam's Club's gonna be calling me like, dude, you talked about Sam's Club on your podcast. You need to shut it down. No, I was kidding. But yeah, no, the closest Costco is about an hour. No, I mean not an hour, about 45 minutes in right across the border,
Wow.
to the south of us. But yeah, so we have
You're missing out
Sam's.
Costco pumpkin pie.
Dude,
I'm sorry, man.
I'm gonna have to order one now.
Yeah, seriously.
But Members Mark pies. Isn't that Members Mark? Isn't that their thing? Isn't that their
No,
brand?
no, Costco signature.
Oh, but I thought they had another whatever. Cool. I'm gonna get Costco signature pies
Oh
right
no,
there.
it's Kirkland signature. Sorry.
Kirkland, there it
Kirkland.
is.
Sorry.
Yes, I knew
You're
they
right.
had their brand.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, the pie giveaways, yeah, that works. You know, I think that it's important to have some tools. I mean, every time like I cringe when you say like, yeah, those are the old-fashioned way, but it's super, you still need tools no matter where you're at. Like the CRM is almost like a basic necessity for any agent who's worth their salt to be able to kind of organize their contacts. Otherwise, you're going to have things fall through the cracks so fast, right?
And I'm
You
sure
know,
you've heard the phrase, you know, like, what's your favorite CRM? Well, it's the one you're going to use. I disagree because the one that you use could suck. And then you're wasting your time with the wrong CRM. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I always hear that from a lot of gurus. They're like, oh, it's the one you're going to use. And I'm like, dude, if you're trying to drive, I mean, if you're trying to go overseas and you're trying to drive there, it's the wrong vehicle because you're going to have to fly at some point, right? So you
yeah,
can't just like jump in whatever is the right whatever the one you're going to use, but at some point you're going to swim or you're going to fly. Like, you know, you
yeah.
can't just pick something and then say, yes, you're going to do what I want it to do. It's just it's not that easy.
So this is where I'm going to put in the plug for Fieldnotes then at that point in time for CRM, right? www.fieldnotes.ai.
There you go. There you go. If you
Okay, there
want a
you are then
CRM
there.
that's going to do it all, man.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about like cold calling. We all hate that. We all suck at that. How do you love it? Or and what ideas and scripts do you have too?
So, you know, I mean, let's be honest, unless you're buying a list, like there's really not, nobody's cold calling anybody really right now,
Agreed.
because most of your calls are going to be a somewhat warm call because, a cold call is like, hey, is Johnny home? This is Johnny. Johnny, JP, local realtor here. How's it going today? Oh, it's going
Click
fine.
or no
Hey,
click? How do you get them to stay on?
right. So when you're getting, most of the cold calling you do these days is more like circle prospecting. So for those of you that don't know what circle prospecting is, it's when you're calling around either just listed or just sold properties in a certain neighborhood. So you're trying to create a warm call out of a familiar common bond between you and the cold call. And so you're like, hey, we 22 Main Street just sold in your neighborhood for, 500,000. Was just calling to see if you knew anybody that was interested in maybe buying or selling in your area. Oh, well, which property was it? Or not interested. Okay, well, if you're not interested, do you know anybody that might be interested?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Okay. That's
and if
good.
or you could say something to the effect of, hey, do you have a realtor that you're referring business to at the moment? Oh, well, we usually use Chuck because Chuck is so awesome, and Chuck always gives us cookies in the holidays or whatever, or it's just, yeah, Chuck gave us cookies last year and they sucked, we're not using him anymore. And so you're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, we need to get a new person, let's use JP because JP's got a great beard and we're going to use him. And so that's kind of like how you kind of shift it from a negative to a positive and keep them on the phone, because
Yeah.
you're still trying to like keep the relation of the common bond there, because everybody knows five realtors. But if you don't refer stuff to Chuck anymore, and he didn't treat those last customers very well or whatever the case is, you could say, okay, well, if you needed a second option, could I be that person? Boom,
Yeah.
there you go.
You need
And
the
that's just,
backup date, man.
yeah, you need a backup, man.
So that's for your cold calling, right?
Yeah.
And other tips on cold calling.
Um, you know, the biggest one really is, I would say just figure out a way to keep them, like you hear about the friends, occupation, recreation, dreams,
Yeah. Ford. Yep.
Ford, so you figure out like, okay, well, what's the commonality here? So it's just kind of, yeah, JP Fluellen here. I'm a local realtor. Just wanted to see how things are going in your neighborhood. Are you guys seeing a lot of houses going up for sale in your neighborhood? Yes, we are. Blah blah blah. Hey, would you guys be interested in possibly selling your house for, you know, anytime soon?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Because and then they're like, well, not really. Okay, well, great. Well, if you were to sell, what would be an ideal time? And then
Yeah.
usually from there, you're going to start hearing all the stories, and especially depending on what time of day you're calling, most of your retired folks are going to be home and they're going to start telling you their life stories. And you got to figure out a way to either A, turn it into a productive conversation, or B, get them off the phone. Because at some point, like if you got your 50 calls to make, sitting listening to, grandma talk about, her medication isn't quite right because she's got a rash, like that is not going to be a productive conversation. You know what I mean? Because like everybody has that hypochondriac that lives in your neighborhood that's going to start going off about, yeah, well, that's a good thing. My blood pressure, is just off today. And what was your name again? Like, so you gotta be very mindful of your time, because 50 calls could take 2 hours. It could take 5 hours, depending on
Right. Yeah.
how many rabbit holes you want to go down.
I think that with old fashioned prospecting, cold, we it can work, and it's hard work, and it takes discipline on the follow-ups. I'll share a couple of things also for people to kind of wrap their heads around, and and kind of realize that it takes an effort for it. And one is, on average, it takes 7 to 8 attempts to reach out to a cold lead before they even respond to you. So don't give up. Because if you give up and you try only 1 or 2 times, which is the national average of those, what an agent reaches out to a lead, 1 to 2 times versus 7 to 8 times. That gap guarantees you no deals will come out of it if you don't follow up enough times, right? The other thing too, you know, always be persistent with those leads, trying to kind of engage them, get to know who they are. Don't try and sell and pitch them on anything. Just listen to your leads and hear what they need, what they want, because you're in the service industry and you want to be able to help them. And I think that, you know, for the experienced folks, they totally know what I'm talking about. But for the newer agents, it is all about your client, not about you, not about what you do and stuff like that. It's all about them and listening, right? And but it's a fine balance. You know, you don't want to be like sucking and hearing their life story for the next couple of years.
You're right, exactly. And you also got to remember too, a no does not mean never.
Yep.
No just means not right now,
Yes.
or not ready, but will be at some point in the future.
Exactly. Unless they tell you really, unless they're putting you in restraining order or you know,
right. Or take me off your list. Don't ever call me again. I know where
then you have to
then
respect
you
that.
probably have to, take him off the list. But
Yeah. Okay.
all
That
right.
I think is great for today's episode. Now, stay tuned for the next one where we're going to talk about ways to increase the efficiency so that it doesn't feel like helpless and hopeless too. Because I know this is hard work, but we're starting with the bottom, and then we're going to kind of help you guys ratchet up to the next level of, you know, getting your business off the ground with lead follow-ups as well too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, that's a great way to wrap it up. And what's the best way to get a hold of you, Khek?
You can go to the website at fieldnotes.ai, or you can call me, which is 425-740-0260.
Awesome. And if you guys want to know about what we're doing over here at the Titan Real Estate team, you can give me a call on my number at 307-772-1184, or you can just reach out to me at wyomingrealestatecareers.com, or you can do a message to me on Instagram or on Facebook. You can just type in JP Fluellen, and that's Fluellen. And I'm the only one on the planet. So,
Is there really?
yep.
Okay, man. You are special, man.
I appreciate
Okay.
that. All right. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks again for another episode of Getting Real in the Field. Peace.
See ya.